Hey guys, so I made a video July 14th, 2022 about the true victim of Death Note. So for anyone who doesn't know, I love Death Note. Let me expand myself a little bit. I love Death Note. Uh, it's almost like a religious watch for me at this point. Um, it's just a really, really great anime to watch. It's only like 37 episodes, so you can get through in one sitting. Start in the beginning of the day, you can end like almost at night. And so I made that the video, the true victim of Death Note, which was Sachiko Yagami, Light's mother, Soichiro's wife. And I said that, she was a true victim. By the end of the series, she had a dead husband, a dead son, and her daughter had been completely traumatized. So she had lost more than anyone else in that show. You could say, oh, Misa was a victim. Well, Misa was complacent. Even though she was kind of a good hearted person, she still killed a lot of people, even at the end. Um, you could say, Takeda was kind of innocent. Yeah, she was a Kira supporter and all that. And she was just kind of supporting Kira, but then Light shows up, he's like, I want you to kill for me. Um, so there's no one person who was innocent in all this except for Sachiko. She wanted nothing more than to be a mother and to be a wife. But so I had the idea. I'm like, okay, surely I'm not the only one who's asked this question because it's never actually said. I said to myself, I'm like, huh, what happened afterwards? After Light was caught, they find him stretched out on the staircase. He's dead. What happens next? I mean, she obviously found out that her husband had died. We had seen in one of the episodes that she knew that, Soichiro was dead. But how do they tell her that her son is now dead? And not only that, but her son was the reason for everything. So I looked all over for an answer. Everyone's just saying, oh, well, I assume, or it's all headcanon, really. So there's really three options there can be. So I would love to hear your guys' option, which one you would think would be the most, because each one has, you know, logical reasoning behind it for the most part, or whatever you guys can think of. So, option one, Aizawa, uh, Matsuda, Mogi, Ide, they don't tell her anything. If they somehow come in contact with her and she asks about Light, they don't tell her anything. They'll say, "Oh yeah, he's he's working hard on catching Kira. In fact, he went to America because he talked to someone who said they can help catch him," and not tell her anything, which I don't think would be a good option considering they have too much respect for Soichiro. Their chief essentially. So I don't think they would hide anything. But there's that option. They just don't tell her anything. Because they know she's already gone through a whole lot. So just letting her think that Light's alive, you know, it may hurt not seeing him, but in her mind she's like, oh well, he's just, that's Light for you, always dedicated and hardworking, and oh boy. The second one, uh, I think is more the most likely. They would go to her and say, "Oh yeah, we have unfortunate news that Light was killed by Kira." Because she already knew that they pretty much already told her, and like, "Oh yeah, your husband died," and she pretty much assumes that Light or her husband was killed by Kira, which he, in a way, was. Um, Kind of a roundabout way, but he kind of was. Um, and just say, yeah, him and Kira was supposed to be face to face for this like final battle between them, and Kira just somehow managed to kill Light. And while devastating, she would kind of expect it because she knew there was always the risk um, that Light could be killed by Kira. Now, the third option, I think you know where this is going. This is probably the more devastating option. So they would flat out tell her what happened. They would tell her that your husband, your daughter, Light, all this death over the last 6 years, all these innocent people being killed, all this was because of your son. So your son, the one you thought so highly of, Mr. Straight Ace, Mr. Toho University, the boy who could do no wrong, who had such a future ahead of him, he was Kira. He was the one. He's the reason for your husband's death. He's the reason why your daughter Sayu is all messed up. He he's dead by his own hands, from the choices he made. And the FBI agents, all of them who died, that was your son. L, the detective who's trying to catch him, dead because of your son. And I think that would just break her mentally. And if the family is anything like I think, Soichiro pretty much he didn't actually state it, but I think pretty much L kind of knew what he would do. He said that if he found out that his son was Kira, he wouldn't know what he would be able to do. Would he be capable of? And L says, I would imagine that you would kill him and then kill yourself. And they kind of use that in a way to see if Light was Kira with the whole, oh yeah, I'm driving you to your execution site, I'll kill you and then kill myself, and but that's pretty much what he would do. He would have killed him. He would have killed Light and then killed himself. I think if Sayu wasn't in the picture, she would just outright kill herself. I mean, try living with that. Your husband dead, your son dead, your daughter's screwed up, and all of it was because of your son. That would just mentally break her. I think if she even if Sayu's in the picture, there's two options with that. Either she kills Sayu because obviously Sayu is still alive. So hearing that her brother was Kira, the one she looked up to, the man she looked up to, the one she loved more than anything, turned out to be this cold-hearted killer, that would traumatize her even more. So there's a possibility that Sachiko would kill Sayu and kill herself so that Sayu wouldn't have to continue living on in the world without her family and knowing that her brother was this freaking killer. Or Sachiko would bring her somewhere and have someone take care of her, like, oh yeah, I have some things to do, and then she would just kill herself. Because I don't think mentally I don't think she'd be able to mentally process the fact that her son was the killer that they were looking for 6 years. This isn't like a little tiny crime spree. This isn't, it was 6 years of killings. So I I I think she would just end up killing herself. Because again, she would just be broken mentally. If Soichiro, who was a man of the law and who was fairly level-headed, he was really level-headed. If he got to the point where if he found out that Light was Kira and just pretty much, kill Light and then kill himself, there's a chance that Sachiko would do the same. So, I mean, at that point she'd have nothing left to live for. She's got a catatonic daughter who's just no facial expressions, no nothing. She doesn't respond. She doesn't talk. She just sits in a wheelchair, and Sachiko pushes her around, takes her out, and she really didn't have anything left to live for because her husband's dead, her son dead, her daughter is basically a vegetable almost at that point. So, but I don't think they would. I think they have enough respect for Soichiro that they would possibly say, you know what, she has the right to know. But like, so at the very end, when Light is pretty much proven to be Kira, Aizawa is more like him, and Mogi and Ide, they're just disappointed. They're like, okay, well, all this evidence, Light is Kira, and we're just kind of going to this to have Nier expose it and give us the evidence that we're really looking for. Because yeah, we may think he's Kira, and he might, he is Kira, but we're looking for, what evidence? How did Nier figure out he's Kira? Like what? Let's see the proof here. So when Aizawa is talking to him, saying, about, you just said a minute ago how you won. What more proof do we need? He was disappointed. Matsuda, on the other hand, Matsuda, the same guy who had been defending Light the entire series, even almost up to the very end, after while Soichiro was dying, he's still got the Shinigami eyes, and he looks at Light and he can see Light's lifespan. And he says that he can see Light's lifespan, that he really isn't Kira, because if you have a notebook, if you have the Shinigami eyes, you can't see the lifespan of someone who owns a notebook. But he could see Light's lifespan above his head. So he's like, you really aren't Kira. And of course, Matsuda is the one who jumps in and says, don't tell me you're still worried about that, Chief. Of course he's not Kira. Like every step of the way, he's always defended Light, no matter what evidence was presented to them. You had Aizawa and Mogi like, it's looking like Light's kinda Kira at this point. But Matsuda at the very end, he just loses it. Light's about to, trying to write the name down in the little torn piece that the notebook that he has, and Matsuda just poof fires at him. And then after Light tries writing the rest of it in his blood, Matsuda just unloads into Light, up to the point where he's like, I'll kill him, he has to die. And the only reason he doesn't manage to kill Light, which would have been bad for him, because Matsuda's a great guy, and it'd be shamed for him to be put away due to his feelings. The only reason he missed Light by like that much and hit the side, like the floor, was because Mogi, Ide, and Aizawa had to hold him back. So he was about to shoot, and they grabbed him, and he managed to miss. But he was that close to killing Light. He just flat out said he has to die. But I think in the end, when it came to his mom, Light's mom, Sachiko, I don't think even Matsuda, as much as he hated Light at the end, he's not a bad person. Matsuda's not. I don't think he'd want to put Light's mom through any more pain. So, same thing with Mogi and Aizawa. Aizawa, we saw his family. So it's like, one parent to another. I don't think I'd want to cause her any more pain, especially after losing her spouse. It's like, I'm a married man, and I would really, as far as I know, Mogi was single. So was Matsuda. But they were all good people, and I don't think they'd want to put her through any more pain. But because they respected Soichiro, he was their chief and all that, they were like, you know what, we respect him, and she does have the right to know. It was her family, it was her husband, her son. She kind of has the right to know. But, so, I mean, I don't think the first option would happen with they just don't tell her anything. The two other options, they tell her that, oh yeah, he fought against Kira and he fought valiantly and he died. Or they just outright tell her, yeah, your son was Kira. 6 years of death, and your husband and your daughter like this, and your son end up, that was all him. The man we were looking for has been living in your house this entire time, or part of the time. Because then they start living in the headquarters. It's like freaking 20, 30, 50 floors. Uh, so it's like, yeah, the person we were looking for was Light the entire time. The whole time. Um, but again, I think they wouldn't want her to go through any more pain. You know, losing her husband, losing her son, and having her daughter just completely traumatized. And that would also traumatize Sayu even more. Um, but she wanted nothing more than be a wife and a mother. But instead, I mean, there's the episode where they're all talking, they're all laughing, and Ryuk even, he even responds and he has this comment of, a happy moment from the most unfortunate family in the world. I mean, every one of them has been, affected in some way by the Death Note. He says that, people who use a Death Note or a curse with fear, pain, and misery. Well, in this case, it was everyone around them because Kira or, Light managed to get almost everyone he knew involved. So, but when Ryuk said about the whole, a happy moment for the most unfortunate family on the planet, it's, but yeah, I mean, there was a chance that, like I said, she would kill herself, and thinking that she'd be reunited. Ryuk says that people who use the Death Note go to neither heaven or hell, and it said that they go to like nothing, they return to nothingness, like before they were born. But then in another anime, which is kind of like a limbo type thing, where people kind of, I think it's like where they come back, try to come back or whatever. They have this monitor, and in like the waiting room or whatever, we see Light, and he's just kind of just. And the girl says, who is that? And the guy's like, you don't know who that is? It's Light. He's sitting there. So the whole going to nothingness, this is like a limbo. So there's also the possibility that he becomes a Shinigami. That maybe he gets out of this limbo and becomes a Shinigami. I mean, Ryuk says in the very beginning about the whole. I mean, he said, Light says like, oh well, if I keep making deals for eyes or wings, I really will become a Shinigami. Which, we see this Shinigami trying to find Ryuk, who wants to hear a story about Light, and he brings him an apple, and he's got very similar features to Light. So it's very well possible that Light did turn into a Shinigami after he got out of this limbo area. But yeah, he's just kind of sitting in this waiting room. He's just like, who is that? Like, you don't know who that is? Everybody knows who that is. That's Kira. That's Light Yagami. But yeah, what do you think? So you got they just don't tell her anything. They tell her that Light died valiantly against Kira, or they tell her, yeah, your son is a straight up killer. All the pain and suffering that's been happening in the world for the last 6 years, that's his fault. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, Miss Yagami. But your son's a dick. But yeah, or I'd love to hear what you guys think might happen. But yeah, Sachiko Yagami, the true victim of Death Note. Anyway, that's gonna do it for me. You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.